Welcome back to Go-to-Master Show Finance Fireside podcast, where we converse with finance leaders from some of the fastest growing businesses out there and bring you what they've learned through their experience. Joining us today is Wong, VP of Finance Systems, Transformation and M&A Integration. She's also running a consulting firm called Falcon Transformation LLC. Thank you for joining us here today, Jan. Could you please share a little bit about yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction as well, Avi. I really appreciate it. My name is Wong. As you mentioned, my current role is a VP of Finance Systems Transformation and M&A Integration at Datavant. I'm a CPA. Sometimes I don't feel like it, but I am a CPA. And I have over about 23 years of finance experience, specializing in pre-IPO tech companies. Started off as an accountant, which we can go into a little bit, ARAP, stapling receipts to and expense reports before technology really took its place, and go on to the journey of being an accountant all the way to now a finance transformation leadership role, which I absolutely love. As you mentioned, currently have my own consulting firm as well, doing consulting expertise for finance, deals values, system transformation or whatnot for companies that are looking to drive efficiency and long-term growth. I live currently in Sacramento, California, about a couple hours away from the Bay Area, and that's about it. From a fun part perspective, I just love to travel, eat, and sing karaoke.
We'll definitely dive in. 23 years, that's a rich experience, Jan. You started
Thank
as
you.
a controller and kind of now lead enterprise-wide transformations. And how that evolution shaped your ability to thrive in your current role, Jan?
Great question. Definitely has been quite a journey. And just going into finance originally really was coming from college and thinking that was probably the best place to start finding a job. But I started going into accounting and worked for really large companies. So large companies, uh, it's like a small cog in a ginormous machine, and really did more like day-to-day task, whether it's just specifically like all you do is a variance analysis for like $3 million worth of like P&L variance, or working on like books and records, but really just doing like a small, very small portion of something that's already been established was really where I started off. And then kind of thought about like along my journey, I always like to pick up projects that were more impactful, but being in finance, I never knew that I could actually really have an impact anywhere. So I started looking into being in Silicon Valley, looking into companies that are, have a big return. First of all, it was like, okay, I could go into like a big return place and actually land like a pre-IPO company. Looked kind of sexy, was kind of cool. So I definitely wanted to go into that. But at the same time, from my networks, seeing that within finance, you can really build a process, build a team, do a lot of things that could really shape the future for a company, that most large companies have already gone through that motion. I mean, I was at Wells Fargo. They have 100 years of being a company. So you really wouldn't be able to find any little bits and pieces to try to improve upon. So my journey in pre-IPO tech companies really started in 2015. I joined Uber, probably when they were in one building, and a few floors. And so being able to be in that space and learning a lot about how to take some of the knowledge that I have from a larger company, but taking on projects, you have to wear so many hats being in that position. So it's starting that transformation journey, whether it's at Uber or I was in a few pre-IPO stage companies. I kind of got to a really smaller and smaller company, then I decided to go into a late stage IPO. That whole wide range of experience have allowed me to prep for where I am today. So whether it's learning about how to become audit ready or teaching leadership what even audit readiness means, what US GAAP means, compliance, like not knowing anything about international compliance to needing to roll up my sleeves and figure out what that means, outsourcing, and how to outsource correctly, made a lot of mistakes along the way and learned a lot from that journey, to system implementations, which I love near and dear to my heart. System implementations is something where it's like a spaghetti ball that you're trying to unravel, going from either basic systems that are your classic QuickBooks or your classic Bill.com to going into something more like an Oracle or a NetSuite or Coupa and looking into boundary systems and figuring out how this is all going to connect. Those are a lot of things that I learned along the way. And being able to be in this transformation role today is taking all of that experience that I've had over the past 20 something years and going into a role like this and being able to bring that knowledge and that experience to help another company excel into an IPO ready company.
System integration is a spaghetti box, very well put across there. You've been there, done that, yeah. And so, variety of companies that you've worked with. I want to touch upon the conflict management piece as well and leading new initiatives. So, what kind of playbook has helped you over different kind of companies that you worked with? I'm sure there are different strategies for different kinds of companies, right?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. I think there's no one size fits all type of strategy, but the one thing that um, I have learned and also have done going into companies is really being able to not go into hot, first of all. I've gone into companies really hot before, and that doesn't really work out. You really have to evaluate and give yourself like a milestone where there's 30, 60, 90 days to really understand what the company how the company came about within itself. Like, what's the history of the company? Like, my current company has gone through so many M&As, like 30 years worth of M&As to the point of like now they're at a point where like, okay, we're going to grow and consolidate at this stage. But the history of the company itself, how leadership operates, how the people that are going to be your peers or your customers within the company, how they, what their journeys are, how they operate as well. I think that's kind of the first steps in order to ensure that there is no conflict management. I think just being able to just understand the history and the story of people and processes and the company is key. And coming in to educate leaders in terms of my experience or where I would think that they would need to go is a major part of ensuring that there is no conflict management. A lot of projects that I've seen before have really come about because you either come in too hot and you want to make the changes right away, or you don't have the buy-in from the right people. So that's really important to be able to ensure that there is alignment across the board, cross-functionally. I'll give you an example. So coming into Datavant, one of my first projects that I got brought in to do was to implement our ERP. They have had some age-old ERP systems such as Lawson, which not a lot of people have heard about before, but that is one system that they use. But in addition to that, there have been multiple M&As where there are still QuickBooks or some manual type of bookkeeping that was still happening in the company for years. So the main thing about going into something like this, where there's a huge conflict change management that's going to occur, and to them it's a huge initiative, was to ensure that we got like the proper board approval, making sure the board was in agreement, getting the funding that's necessary, and getting the leadership team bought in. So our C-suite was really key in terms of a tops-down approach. This is how this company is working, and I think it works really well. But we didn't actually originally get CTO or CIO involvement, and being able to get their alignment helped really get us to the point where we actually were able to implement NetSuite within a year, which was really unheard of at that point, also from what I've heard as well. So that ensured that alignment was really there. During the whole time, just basically managing a project like this at this scale was ensuring that if there are conflicts, we constantly would have the right communication, bubbling up risk to leaders, having a forum for folks to hash things out, provide solutions. And I think that's the ability to be able to get to a point where we're able to launch this initiative and be successful. So afterwards, I was able to actually own about 30 high profile projects currently at Datavant post ERP go live, just because we were able to be successful and we were able to use like certain playbooks of what we have done in order to like apply that to other projects too.
You touched upon M&A integration. M&A integration is notoriously complex. Like, what
Yes.
kind of critical steps you followed in the playbook to ensure everything is smooth?
Great question. Very, very complex. And I think even in my current job, I'm seeing more complexity than ever than before, and actually need to like stress test my playbook for sure. My current company, we closed about a couple of acquisitions already. And in my past, I think I've been fortunate and unfortunate, but fortunate to be able to be on the acquired side. So I was actually part of the company that got acquired. And also, obviously, even in my past and today, being on the acquirer side. So It really changes the way you think about the people, processes, and systems when it comes to M&A integrations, and how you approach the people aspect, how you integrate people in. But in addition to that, is understanding, how do we break these down into like digestible milestones and tasks in order to integrate successfully. You don't want to drag along an M&A for a long time. And what I've seen before, even with my current company, is that M&As, if you don't integrate within a certain time frame, you end up like just having all these separate systems, which creates that spaghetti ball. And from that point on, it's really hard to just try to bring it all together and just consolidate. So it is really critical to ensure that you have like a playbook ready to go. So what does that really mean? So staying ahead of the game, I think the first step is really important. Being in a role like mine and being able to just be in tune with what is coming down the pipeline from an M&A perspective has helped me greatly. So there's many stages in M&A integration, whether it's you're finding your target, you have a due diligence process where you're gathering data, or you're really right at the cusp of the announcement, which is most of the time where we come in, and being able to know that this is coming. We're trying to prep for it. But even before that, knowing that that was kind of a North Star of what leadership wanted in terms of M&A, got me to think ahead of time, like months ahead of time. I had months of runway to be able to first build together a boilerplate playbook for M&A integration, whether it's related to finance systems, to accounting, to FinOps, to tax and treasury, to FP&A. Those are all the different types of work streams that in my head that I think would be the right work streams to have a successful integration. Then similar to conflict management, ensuring success is to work with workstream leaders, letting them know that I think this is coming. So I would love your buy-in to make sure this is really how you want to approach this. So the thought process is already there ahead of time so they could delegate accordingly, because resourcing and timing is always a problem with M&A. You're adding on top something to somebody that already has a million projects and they have their day-to-day work that they have to handle. So just being able to just have that relationship and that foresight to be able to provide to these leaders is key, because you're going to be able to just work arm in arm together as a team in order to tackle this very difficult initiative. And so from then on out, one of the things that we also did after getting the playbook was really to push for establishing the first like finance integration management office at Datavant, but also just learning from past experiences and also understanding that having a governance is extremely important. I'm a very organized type of person. So just being able to just have a governance method is key. So just getting straight out of the gates, you got a playbook, you got your buy-in. Then the next step is really being able to, how are we going to manage this? How are we going to raise risk up, and how are we going to bubble everything up? That is super key. So even within finance, having leadership understand where their role is, which is like a steering committee, and being able to help us unblock anything in case there's any risks that are happening, that is important. And then the part where we call it herding the cats and ensuring that we have like a weekly basis in order to just be able to provide the right updates. That's what my team and I do too. It's being able to have a very consistent cadence, weekly milestone tracking, and then aligning ourselves to ensure that we meet our targeted goals is a big thing to me. And we report back up to like an integration management office in order for them to understand it. So I think that's all really important. And then being vocal about raising risk, giving people a forum to be comfortable to say, I think this is going to be this reason why we can't make our targets. And then what can we do to unblock it? Is it resourcing? Is it timing? Is it complexity? Like all of that can be like completely surfaced up in order for my team and I to kind of bring this up to leadership and to management. And it's worked really well, because with this, we were able to integrate our last M&A, which was last year, in 4 months' time. So we basically closed the deal in September, and we were able to integrate their functionalities all within January of this year, which is really, really quick. So about 4 to 6 months or so. So that was a really good test to see how this whole format works. So we've used this kind of secret recipe to push it along for the other M&As, and we're ever growing because, like you mentioned, complexities happen, and we just have to be ever changing in regards to whatever M&A it is. But at least we have a starting point and a kind of like a motion, and getting people to be ready for this and prepare for it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Being organized and being in finance kind of go hand in hand. You spoke about bringing in CXO alignment earlier. I'd like to double click on that, Jan. uh, change management can make or break transformations. So, how do you ensure you bring in that stakeholder alignment across the board, right from the junior folks to the senior most folks in the company? How do you ensure you bring in that change management in picture?
Yeah, I think that's definitely like another facet of what finance transformation does is not just the project management and conflict management, but there definitely is a change management component to it. And change is hard. I think change, especially from the people who have been doing a process for so long or performing a process for so long or dealing with a system that they've known for the longest time, or people who are just not not equipped to be ready to be taking on something more organized. I think I've dealt with so many of these different types of change managements throughout my career. I've had to even educate CEOs on what a finance function does and how to prepare for like a launch of like a new system. So there's definitely a lot of change that we have to make sure that we um, got to make sure that the teams are aligned with it. So I think the first thing is understanding. Again, I think I always try to go into like a process to just try to understand the people and how they embrace change. Like, who am I dealing with exactly? Who is my customer? They are my customers at the end of the day. I don't want to hear when somebody's not happy about a product because I want to get ahead of it to understand how they feel about something before it's launched. So I think that's really key is to understand who your customers are. They might be people who are not liking change or people who absolutely want change. So just trying to understand your audience is important. I've had to manage projects with my team where we had to launch a whole Amex Global program for 3,000 employees. That's very different than when you're launching a new ERP to a handful of people. So there's always different ways to approach it depending on your audience. And I think the second thing is really just transparency, just being transparent about the project, the progress. I try to like kick off a project accordingly, kicking off a project and being able to just have people align saying, oh, this is actually happening. So here's what we're kicking off. Here's the purpose and here's the objective. Here's the timeline. So nobody would be wondering what this project is how, and finding out that it impacts them when we go live. I think it's really important that we identify who all the stakeholders are. I mean, we might not always get 100% of all of them, but at least we got most of the folks who we know will be impacted. And then being able to just have transparent, consistent communications is important. Kickoffs, milestones, celebrations, go lives, post hypercare or post go live connecting points, sending out surveys or having more training sessions, getting feedback. I think that's really important to be able to continue to handhold these folks just to know that they're looked after. And we know change is hard, but this is what we can do to help smooth that over are all the things that I think would be super helpful from a change management perspective.
Know your audience, be transparent in communication. Great takeaways. I also have a question on AI. I think this is
Mhm.
relevant when I talk to finance leaders because finance kind of handle a lot of sensitive data. What kind of opportunities and challenges you foresee, especially the impact in finance function? Yeah.
AI is such a hot topic right now. It's ever growing and ever changing in regards to just how we approach things. So I think from an opportunity perspective, there's definitely, I think it's endless at this point because it's developing so much. But how we currently are seeing AI is a lot of the mundane tasks that you have a human working on. There's still little bits and pieces of complexities where it's difficult to just ship it over or be able to just have somebody spend less time on things because they just keep changing. But what we've noticed currently so far with a lot of AI tools are the ability to be able to strip out that day to day mundane task. For example, if you're looking at a reconciliation and you're able to have machine learning learn kind of like what a human accountant does, but able to really take down the time and actually be able to match a transaction, for example, up to like 80%. You're able to take that 20% and utilize your current talent to be able to just tackle that 20% and it'd be way more fruitful because they're actually using their analytical side to really dig into something instead of, okay, I got to get through this very long task of matching thousands of transactions. Then I finally get to the point that it makes sense, but oh, you're already at a time crunch. So AI has definitely changed a lot of that landscape and being able to, I wish I had that when I was an accountant because I remember spending countless nights doing something that I absolutely dislike, which is a bank reconciliation. And then I have to figure out, you know what, I'm just going to plug it in for this month. I shouldn't be doing that. but I'm going to do that for now because we just have to get it over the finish line. Then we'll tackle it later. If I had AI technology, I wouldn't really be sitting there thinking about why was my college education being used to do this task, but actually being able to get me to the certain point where I can just really use my analytical mind and actually be more excited about getting something to the end. In addition to that type of opportunity, there's also opportunities to just cut down time from a project management standpoint. We've used note takers. We've used uh, AI technology to be able to take screenshots super quickly. So when we use it for testing, it's consistent and we've passed audits because of those reasons. So the opportunities are endless because there's always opportunities to be able to cut down the time, to decrease all the manual work and everything. Um, from a challenge perspective, I think the challenges are just beginning because I think one is really just understanding what AI could do for us, but two, just being able to harmonize and balance out between moving fast using AI to help us solve for all those different types of solutions, whether, like I said, it's timing, it's budget, or is resourcing. But then on the flip side, governance is kicking in a lot more. So having a committee or AI governance committee reviewing how this tool can impact the company, making sure it's safe. I think there's definitely a balance that still needs to be worked on because it's a challenge. You want to get things done super quickly, but then there's a challenge of making sure that this tool is not going to harm your company. Those are the issues that I think we've been experiencing, or those are the issues that we've been experiencing, or those are the challenges that we've been experiencing as a company, and just trying to learn and trying to move fast in order to not slow down growth, but also to provide a level of governance and making sure it's safe. I think those are all the things that we just have to consider for AI.
Hopefully, we'll have more regulation on our way. Three key pieces of advice you would like to share for our listeners who would like to excel in the field of finance.
Absolutely. So three key pieces of advice that I would love to give to the listeners. I think the first one is master the fundamentals, but embrace technology. So what does that mean? From my own knowledge standpoint, starting out in finance, there's actually a wide range of areas to absorb, whether it's accounting, whether it's treasury, whether it's tax. I didn't even know about this when I got out of school. I thought finance was just like a few of the things that they teach you in business school, and that was about it. But there's so much that it entails when it comes to that. So I would say try to build your foundation. I would say early on, but if not throughout your career, it's helped me tremendously because I've taken on roles, whether it's ARAP, procure to pay, or even if it's payroll, tax, accounting, you name it. I think I've dabbled in each of the different areas, and being able to just understand how they work and getting out of my comfort zone has worked for my career tremendously. Going in with a foundation and understanding of these different finance functions can really help you um, shape yourself even into a transformation role. I think implementing certain types of systems, going into certain types of projects, I'm well versed in all of them, maybe not a master of all of them, but being able to talk apples to apples with your leadership and with your customers has helped me greatly and just help you understand. So even if you're in a startup role, for example, just being able to explain these things within finance helps you a lot. And then I think just staying ahead and understanding how technology can help you, leveraging what ERP systems are being used out there, analytical tools, emerging technologies, AI tools, I think will really help you. So getting the foundation and getting the technology kind of uptick will greatly help within your career. I think the second thing is really investing in your network. Books and work can tell you only so much, but actually being able to get out there, meet people who are either in the same field or finding mentors, I think is very important and very helpful for one. Um, I think being in startup land has humbled me much, and also being able to be network with other people within the startup land, or maybe even in more mature companies, has helped me realize, like, what are some of the best practices that are out there? Am I doing it right? Am I actually going in the right direction? Just talking to people, talking to peers, talking to other people that are above me helped me really understand whether or not I'm heading in the right direction. And also if I'm not, listening to their ideas and also listening to their advice has been very helpful. So validating or invalidating opinions really comes from your network. And I think the last thing is really developing resilience and adaptability. Just be prepared for constant change. 23 years of finance has really embraced me for change. I went from printing out checks or stapling receipts, like very manual processes, or going to the post office and dropping my checks over, now to all digitization. Those are major things in
Yeah.
terms of things that we need to embrace. But being in like pre-IPO tech companies, seeing our products change people's lives, whether it's Uber pressing a button, whether it's Sonder being able to, use technology in hotels combined together. Those are a lot of things that I see, from a product standpoint, but from like internal finance standpoint, is being able to embrace technology changes as well, people changes too. There's always a trend of where things are going. If it wasn't outsourcing, now it's going to be AI tools. So just being open-minded, I think it's really important, and that will really set somebody up for success.
Well, that brings us to the end of this insightful episode of Go to Masters. Big thanks to Yan for sharing her experiences and valuable insights. Remember, you can tune in every week to learn more from game changers driving hypergrowth companies across the globe. Go to Masters is brought to you by Everstage, your trusted partner for transforming the way businesses handle sales commissions. I'm your host, signing off.